Today's episode is all about the Sony PlayStation 3. It's time for Generation 7, and we're going to do a buying guide on the PlayStation 3 and let you know if it's worth purchasing and collecting for in 2021. What are we drinking today?
Today we're drinking Theme from the Bottom by Oakshire. This is a Stone Fruit Bonanza Smoothie Sour Ale.
All right, you know the drill. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell icon so you never miss one of our wacky bi-weekly uploads. And sit back, relax, pour yourself a beer if you care to, and let's take a look at the Sony PS3 and if it's worth purchasing one and collecting for in 2021.
This is Pixel Game Squad. You're watching Gaming Off the Grid, possibly the greatest channel on earth.
Yeah,
well,
greatest.
Besides Game Shack, Game Chasers, Retro Liberty, Chase Out at the Right Price, Russ Lyman.
Purchasing a Sony PlayStation 3 in 2021. We're going to drill down into this and see if it's worth it. We'll probably answer that question closer to the back end of the episode. First, we're going to dig into like the background, our nostalgia, memories, look at some games, some accessories, and all the things that you maybe would want to get for a PS3 if you were to get one, and then kind of let you know what the market is today and if it's worth collecting for. The background of the console.
Yes.
We're in Gen 7. This comes out after the Xbox 360.
This is the second console of Generation 7, and this came out November 17th of 2006 in North America. At launch, it was $599, which is very pricey, but compared to nowadays, that's kind of similar.
It is. It was way more, though, than the 360. So there was the $599 60 gig model, and then the 20 gig model was $499. And you compare that, like the original Xbox, I think its best model was $399. And its lower tiered model was $299.
Yeah, so it was so much more expensive.
And it had a 1 year jump almost entirely on the PS3. This generation, Sony gave up a ton of ground and market share to Microsoft. And I feel like it was more common to know, even though the sales kind of mimic each other for the PS3 and the 360, you got to understand Microsoft does not have a very good foothold in foreign markets.
Yeah.
So its market share in the US was really dissected by Microsoft. And if you think back to the time, I bet you knew way more friends that had a 360
absolutely.
than had a PS3.
Absolutely.
I also remember the scarcity of the console. It was really, really freaking hard to find.
Oh, especially at launch.
At launch.
Yeah.
It was almost impossible. I remember I was probably a freshman or sophomore in college in lines. I thought of like at night, I was like, let me go see what it's looking like at Best Buy. I might wait for one. Lines wrapped around the building. Just wasn't going to happen. So it was a long time until I actually got into the console because I had a 360. So it wasn't until Metal Gear Solid 4 that I took the dive. We'll tell a little bit about that story moving forward. But a big thing about the console, though, that was a really big deal, kind of how PS2, it was a big deal that it had a DVD player. This thing could play Blu-rays.
Which was the new thing, the new way you're going to watch movies.
Yeah.
And Blu-ray, like, never... I mean, obviously it's still around and it's still big, but DVDs are still a thing. Like, it never took over the market.
It didn't wipe it out, but I do think it's a pretty relevant format, for sure. Where Xbox, you had to buy like an external piece to be able to play HD DVDs. At the time, it was like, which one's going to take off? Clearly, Blu-ray kicked that whole situation's ass, and Blu-ray's here to stay.
HD DVDs, man, what a joke.
It didn't work out too long.
They were around for not very long.
Yeah.
What's really cool about the PS3 is the backwards compatibility. So it can play PS2 and PS1 games, but only certain models play PS2 games.
Yeah, so
it's very weird.
So it's that launch edition, basically, is kind of where that cart stops. So it played PS1, PS2 games like you mentioned. Now, every iteration of the PS3 plays PS1 games, so it never lost that. There's even fat models of the PS3 that doesn't play PS2 games.
Why?
Kind of the tell on that, I think, is the amount of USB ports on the front. I believe if you got 4, you're probably good. If you've got 2, probably not good. The version we have does not play PS2 games. It plays PS1 games.
That's so weird they did that. Like, why would you start with fully backwards compatible and then get rid of the PS? Like, doesn't make sense.
Well, I think they were just trying to shave as much cost as they could, really, because this thing was, at the time, it felt grossly overpriced when you could get into the best model of the 360 for $200 cheaper.
Yeah,
way
cheaper.
It was just, it really put Sony in a bad spot. Getting that late start and the price point, I think, really hurt them, at least in North America, for the market share. What is your nostalgia for the system? Like, because you were way into 360 from what you've told me.
So here's what's crazy is I never owned a PS3, and I didn't get a 360 till I was in college. So way after I got it for dirt cheap. But I'm a Sony fanboy. I love Sony things, and I'm gonna say this right now. This is a hot take. I think the 360 is better. I love the 360. I played it so much. But one thing that's really cool about the PS3, I remember back in the day when my buddy had the PS3, is it offered free online, and that was
a big deal.
That was a huge deal because this was the generation of online gaming. I wanted it so bad because I could not afford to buy online. So I was like, man, I want to play, and I never got one. But it was so cool going over to friends' houses and playing the PS3. But I didn't play it that much because I'd always go over to a friend's house and play Halo. You know, 360 was just the bigger thing in my life.
There is some nostalgia there for it, but this was more in my college years where I wasn't as hardcore into gaming as I was during the PS2 era. I just didn't have the time. I was going to college. The band was kind of getting some traction.
You were working.
I was working full time. But I do remember when I got this, my cousin was on leave from the military, and we hadn't seen each other for quite a while. It was one of my best friends, and we're huge Metal Gear Solid fans. And he came back, and he's like, we're going to go get a PS3 right now, and we're going to get Metal Gear Solid 4, and we're going to beat it before I go back. And that's how I got, and then when he left, he just left this. This is it. This is the exact PS3 we got. He just gave it to me as a gift, because all he wanted to do was beat Metal Gear Solid 4 while he was back. And from that point forward, I no longer really cared as much about the 360. So I'm a bigger fan of the PS3 than the 360, although I love the 360.
360 is awesome.
Awesome console. Both consoles, and we'll talk about the 360 more when we cover that, there were some hardware issues, and these fat models tend to be prone, with that thermal paste that they use on some of the board, prone to failure. But that original fat model of the PS3 is the one collectors are bananas for.
They're crazy for it, and what's really crazy is there's 4 different variants of the PS3.
Yeah.
4 different variants.
Yeah, so you had the original
fat, which is crazy, and then you had
the next wave
the fat version, but the second wave fat didn't play the PS2.
Yeah.
Which was weird. And then they came out with the PS3 Slim, and then there was the Super Slim.
Yeah, which the last version of the PS3, I think, from what I've heard, the hardware is very, very reliable. And it's got that door on the top, and you put the disc on a spindle, so the disc drive in that one doesn't suck the disc in like the rest of them. But I've never played one of those.
No, I've never even seen one.
I've got a slim PS3 in the living room. I've got the old fat boy here in the game room. I've never really had a reason to pick one of those up. I always thought it looked kind of cheap. I never loved the look of that. Where the fat and the original slim, those are both beautiful consoles.
I do love the way this looks, and I love like the Spider-Man font.
Yeah, the
which
piano
is so cool.
black finish.
But dude, this guy weighs so much. It's so heavy.
It does. And then there are, within the PS3 Slim, there are some various console variants within there, but that's kind of the core of what you're out looking for. If you're going for reliability and you want to know that it's going to work and you don't have to get into the board and maybe replace some thermal paste, maybe do some soldering, capacitor replacements, etc., probably want to go with one of the slim models for reliability.
But the fat ones, man, are so cool.
You can get an original fat, which we don't have, but that's backwards compatible with PS1 and PS2.
That's hard to beat.
That's pretty cool, but you might have to do some work, which a lot of people get scared of that techie work. There's so many videos on YouTube now. It's like kind of just paint by numbers almost. You got to be able to solder a little bit, which is not that big of a deal. It's not that scary. But I would say if you just want ease of use, plug and play, probably go with one of those slim models. And I can't speak much to the super slim because I've just never played them, but I've heard they're reliable.
Now let's move on to some PS3 accessories.
Yeah.
So obviously there's controllers. It comes with the standard controller, and what's really cool is this was the introduction of wireless controllers.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
Which, from a collector standpoint, I've thought this since this era. First off, the 360 controller is better than the PS3 controller.
Yes.
So, the PS3 controller, something about it, I like it. I like it because it's like the PS2 controller. Yeah. But I don't like that the trigger buttons are concaved as opposed to convex.
Yeah, they slope. Your fingers slide off.
Yeah, it's kind of goofy. And the controllers just seem to be like cheaper made, and any controller that charges worries me long term because those batteries, they get worse and worse over time, where the 360 controller has just
battery compartments, which was super nice, which means those will probably last longer.
And when we play our PS3, we use a third-party controller. We use the Afterglow PS3 wireless.
It's great. It works great.
It's got the better triggers on it. So the regular controller, you can still get them obviously for relatively cheap, but
and there's a bunch.
There's a bunch of different color variants too. So we have like a pink one and a gold one. I just like different colored things. That's cool. But if you're going to pick this up, you got to get a controller. And in the realm of controllers, they added the PlayStation Move, which was Sony's goofy ass, weird attempt at competing with the Nintendo Wii, because the Wii started kind of making some serious noise, actually ended up being the best selling console of this generation, and Sony's like, well, shit. What are we going to do to compete with that? Yeah. So the PlayStation Move came out, which at the time, not knowing what I didn't know, I just was like, dude, that's gimmicky. It's hot trash.
It does.
Didn't want it.
It looks, with the balls at the end, it looks so stupid.
But
now I've came to appreciate and love it.
Yeah, because it
games.
opened the gate to be able to play some light gun games on the PS3.
There are some fun games. Like I remember playing like a bow and arrow game with it, and it's kind of fun. But I'd rather do that kind of gimmicky stuff on the Wii.
Anyway, floodgates opened up to be able to play light gun games, and we have a full video exploring the light gun games on the PS3. We'll put a little blip in up here if you want to go see that. It's a pretty darn good video, if I do say so myself. Tooting on our own horn there. But I think it opened up the floodgates, and it, you know, like the Time Crisis Raising Storm was a great game to pick up, because you got Time Crisis Raising Storm, Time Crisis 4, and Dead Storm Pirates, which all in one disc,
which is awesome.
It's awesome. And you could use the Move. And the Move, the Sony guns for it, they're a little magoo.
Yeah.
There are some other peripherals, which again, go watch that video if you want to know about that stuff. But there are some third-party peripherals for light gun games that make it pretty damn good on the PS3 using the PlayStation Move. And then there was also that Namco GunCon 3.
Yeah, the GunCon 3, which used the cameras, which is the most accurate thing, but it's only
those weird sensors.
It's only available for like 1 or 2 games.
Aside from that, you know, the accessories, I don't really remember. There probably are more.
I bet there's a lot of third-party stuff as well.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna get into it, I just think you need a controller.
Yeah, and there were some good USB fight sticks that came with it.
Yeah, we have a couple.
You know, there was all the Guitar Hero and Rock Band stuff that you may or may not need, but the accessories we mentioned, just kind of the controller and maybe the PlayStation Move is kind of just the essentials. There's a whole other sea of things, depending on what games you would potentially pick up, you may or may not need for the console.
Now, let's talk about games. If you're going to pick up a console, you got to get games. So, obviously, the PS3 library is huge, and a lot of games are third-party that are available on the Xbox 360.
Yeah, cross-platform.
And there's a ton of cross-platform during this generation. So, we're just going to focus on PS3 exclusives that we love and have played, and obviously, there's some we're forgetting, so in the comments below, I know you're going to blow us up.
Yeah.
So, let's just start off.
Our favorites.
You've already mentioned Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yep.
Fantastic Metal Gear game, exclusive to the PS3.
Yeah, and super cheap. It's a super cheap game. Most of the games we bring up today are very, very affordable. Twisted Metal, last iteration in the series, is right here.
Dude,
I love this game.
This game is so badass.
I love the story of the game.
It's so dark.
It's just an awesome game. The Uncharted series started on the PS3.
Ooh, yes.
Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, I believe, are on the console, and they're dirt freaking cheap.
You can find them at every garage sale, every thrift store.
Great games that Naughty Dog was just knocking it out of the park.
Oh, and speaking of Naughty Dog, one of the best games ever created on the PS3.
Yep.
Just ever created in general. The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you can find this game for dirt cheap. Obviously, there's remastered versions on the PS4. Yep. The second one's out, but it started on the PS3. And the PS3 version still looks and plays amazing.
It does. God of War 3 is on the PS3, which is just a continuation of a great series before it drastically changed on the PS4, which was a good change. But if you like the old style, God of War 3 on the PS3 is pretty
And then there was Little Big Planet, which I used to play Little Big Planet all the time with my neighbor growing up. Dude, it was so much fun because you could create levels and you were just the little sack boy.
Yeah.
What a fun game.
It is, and that was a new IP during the PS3 era as well. So Sony really dialed in the exclusives. And then, you know, you look at the MLB The Show games, which started on the PS2, but they really got them crispy and looking really good on the PS3. Some other awesome exclusives. I remember my mind being blown when I played Heavy Rain.
Oh, that game was so sweet.
It is just more of an interactive adventure game. It's more you just push the button, sequence-based type of stuff. But wow, it was really deep. First game I'd ever played like that.
And you were like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then the infamous game started on the PS3.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember playing that for the first time and being like, what is this?
Yeah.
It was so
It's like a superhero game, kind of an open world. I look at what ended up happening with the Batman Arkham series and then even the Spider-Man series, and I like trace all that back, and I'm like, man, Infamous was kind of doing that.
Yeah, it's kind of the starter.
Before with a made-up superhero. It was a really cool series. The third one, Second Son, which I think is on the PS4, I didn't really connect with that one as much, but I liked 1 and 2 a lot on the PS3.
And then we can't forget House of the Dead 4, which is exclusive to the PS3, and oh my god, dude. It's such a great House of the Dead game. It's in a different style then, because it's machine guns, but it's still really fun.
And it's digital download only.
Yes, and then there's another game that's really fun, that's super cheap, and that's All-Stars Battle Royale, which is PS3's version of Smash Bros. And it's just all Sony IPs. I love that game growing up. I would always play as Fat Princess. She's just a funny character, and that's a fun fighting game.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of these games are super, super cheap, especially the Sony exclusives. They're basically those games that just sold tons of copies.
And they're just everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. So current market for the PS3, for the console itself, is starting to climb up a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I really think in 2021, it's going to start, it already has started getting a little crazy. I do think purchasing a PS3 in 2021 is kind of the time. It's not going to get any cheaper.
Now is the time to do it because people aren't quite nostalgic for it yet, but I think they're going to get there. And the games, guys, the games are dirt cheap. You can get so many games for so cheap. You can find them everywhere, and all these games are badass. You can build a collection for super cheap. I think now is the time to get in.
Yeah,
now is the time.
There's starting to be some weird games that are going up in price on the PS3. You know, I think of that game Alice, the Alice in Wonderland Madness. It's like a $23 game. There's I believe there's like a Spider-Man game that's like $20 or $30. I seen it in a Pac-Man case video. It's like, oh, I wish I could get that game. Not going to pay that for it. You know, like I know like Def Jam Icon, which is kind of the last of those Def Jam type of games, goes for like 20 or 25. There's a lot of them that are really starting to climb. More that I'm forgetting for sure. Your money's going to be spent on the console.
Yes.
Getting the games or the software, that's just peanuts. But you probably for a slim $65. If you're getting into that fat, you really want that, you're probably going to be right around that $100.
Damn, just for the console.
Yeah.
But if you go with that fat and drop the money on that, you can still get the games for dirt cheap. So $150, and you'd have a pretty good library if you're starting from scratch.
And the hunting landscape for the PS3, we are finding
they're
just
everywhere.
Thrift stores, garage sales, pawn shops, PS3, 360 games, Wii games. This generation is just a really fun generation to collect for right now. And with Sony's neglect of backwards compatibility on the PS4 and PS5, for that matter, the newest console, I do think having Sony's original hardware is still important.
Yeah, it's the way to play it. Yeah.
When we kind of did our Xbox, should you purchase an Xbox? Well, of course, we think you should, but a lot of folks are like, well, if I have a 360, or if I have
then I just
Xbox Series X,
then I just need the games.
Yeah, where Sony does not offer that. So I think there's at least value there that you can't really play a lot of these games any other way than playing them on the PS3.
It's so stupid. They started backwards compatibility, and now they don't do it.
And like what Microsoft is doing, I think is genius, is basically the system truly isn't backwards compatible. But if you have the disc, it unlocks the download code basically for a game from their digital store.
Yeah.
Which is what Sony should just do. You don't need to. I don't think Xbox is dicking around with it. It doesn't actually play that disc. It's like your download key. So you don't have to worry about putting the extra hardware and all this stuff. I don't know how it all works. But I think Microsoft is really getting it right. But it speaks to the fact that it is a valuable console to still have, because this is the only way you're going to play PS3 games.
Now, I do think in a couple of years the market will start to rise for games, but I don't think this generation will ever get crazy because of the install base. I think there's just so many games out there. There's just so much of it. I just don't think it's ever going to get crazy, but I do think the prices are going to rise a little bit.
And a lot of your cross-platform games, I don't know that will ever get super crazy. Because you can get them on various consoles. It is curious to me, though, that the Wii has started to go up as much as it has from this generation. And I think it's just maybe Nintendo. And a lot of kids were playing that console.
True. And it could be because it's motion and it's during COVID and people wanted to move around.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's going right now. It doesn't make any sense.
So I think now is the time. If you've ever thought, hey, I kind of want to get a PS3, I don't think it's going to get any cheaper than it is right now. Yeah. It was cheaper a couple of years ago, but as you move forward, I don't think we're going to see a dip for a long time. You can get into it very affordably. So PS3, green light. I think it's really fun to collect for right now in 2021.
You know what else is fun to collect for? Beer. What do you think of this beer Joe Olson is? This is Steam from the Bottom, Stone Fruit Bonanza, Smoothie, Sour Ale, Apricot, peach, plum, marshmallow cream, vanilla beans. Comes in at 5%.
Every one of these we've had is just amazing.
Oh, it's so good.
And I feel like every one we have I like better than the one before, but I think it's just because that's the one that's in my hand.
Yeah, and it's in the mouth.
Yeah, this is so freaking good, dude.
It's
like a smoothie.
It's so good, dude. It's so thick and delicious, and like the fruit is so forward pushing. It tastes so organic and real.
It doesn't taste like beer.
And it tastes healthy.
Yeah.
Even though it's obviously not. This
healthy
is
beer.
so good.
Fantastic.
I took a sip of this and I was like, oh my god.
This has to be one of the best series of beers consistently.
The theme from the bottom.
Which, with every one they put out, it's just like, well, that was better than the last one I had. But I think it's, again, just because it's the one that's in our hand that we like it so much. But they're just amazing.
So freaking good. Such an easy drink.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, hopefully this helps point you in the direction of the PS3. Maybe you don't want to get a PS3. Let us know in the comment section below. Do you feel 2021 is a time to pull the pin and jump in on the PS3? We really think it is. Super easy market. Super fun to collect for. It's not hard to find games. What else are you looking for?
Yeah.
When you're collecting for a video
Amazing
game console?
library.
It's pretty awesome. Guys, we always appreciate you tuning in and subscribing to the channel. We'll see you next time. Right here on Gaming Off the Grid. Remember that episode of South Park where they're trying to get a semen sample from Butters? And he's whacking off in the bathroom
For the whole episode?
Yeah, it's like 3 days. And he's like, ow, ow. He's starting to get sore.
And then he comes back and then they're way past it and he's still in there.
And he's just like, oh, ow. Come on, little fella. Wow. Unbelievable.
Jesus Christ.
And we're going to do a buying guide on the PS3 and really dive into whether you should collect for the PS3 in 2001. What are we drinking today?
In 2001?
Is that what I said?
You
Damn.
said in
2001.
Yikes.
Okay. Wow.
It wasn't even out yet.
Time travel. Space is the place. Yeah.
I was like, what?
All right.